All right, let's unpack this. Imagine like a psychological panic room,
Right.
a place where you can just pull a heavy steel door shut, lock the deadbolt, and just breathe for a second without the absolute chaos of the world getting to you.
Yeah, totally disconnected from all that noise.
Exactly. And that is really our mission on today's deep dive. We are going to learn how to build, or, well, rather, access that internal sanctuary using a single, incredibly profound source.
And it's a fascinating source to dig into.
It really is. We are analyzing a hymn from a collection known as the Sanctuary of the Divine Name. It was written by Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, and specifically we're looking at a section found in Rag Sorath 632.
Right.
Now, this is a deeply historical spiritual text, but the core problem it addresses is universally relevant to you, the listener, right now. I mean, how do we find a safe harbor from suffering?
Yeah, how do we access an internal state of absolute safety when the external world is just falling apart? What's fascinating here is to really grasp the gravity of this. It helps to understand the context of what we're actually analyzing. You mentioned Rag Sorath 632.
Yeah, what does that actually mean for people who don't know?
Well, a rag in Indian classical music and, spiritual traditions, it isn't just a chapter heading. It's a melodic framework.
Okay.
It dictates the entire mood. Sorath is traditionally performed at night, and it evokes this profound sense of seeking, like a longing to bridge the gap between the soul and the divine.
Oh, wow. So it's very atmospheric.
Very. So we aren't just reading a manual today, we are unpacking a text that was designed to be sung, meant to emotionally transport the listener into the very sanctuary it describes.
That reframes things completely. I mean, it's not a textbook, it's an immersive experience.
Exactly.
And the text doesn't waste any time easing you into that experience either. The very first instruction is this direct command to the reader's own consciousness. It says, "O mind, contemplate the sanctuary of God."
Right, it targets the mind directly.
Yeah, framing this act of contemplation as a way to tap into what the text calls an ocean of mercy. But why the mind? I mean, why not focus on physical actions or rituals right out of the gate?
Well, because the mind is the battleground.
Right.
When you feel threatened or overwhelmed or, consumed by guilt, those battles are waged entirely in the theater of your mind.
Yeah, that's so true.
By commanding the mind to contemplate the sanctuary, the text is proposing this radical shift in attention.
Yeah.
It suggests that safety isn't something you build around your physical body. It's a frequency you tune your consciousness to.
Shifting your mental focus toward this divine sanctuary is essentially the key to unlocking that panic room.
Precisely.
But who actually possesses the key? Because usually when we discuss accessing profound spiritual sanctuaries or experiencing divine mercy, the assumption is that the door is only open to like monks or saints or people who've spent decades cultivating these morally flawless lives.
Enlightened few, yeah.
Right. We operate on this assumption of spiritual capitalism. You have to earn the currency of good deeds to purchase entry into the sanctuary.
Yeah, it's a very transactional way of looking at it.
Totally. Yeah, the text pivots almost immediately away from that demographic. It introduces highly flawed, incredibly unlikely candidates for salvation.
It completely dismantles the traditional script of merit-based spirituality.
Yeah.
I mean, the author is very deliberate in selecting figures that represent the absolute fringes of moral society.
Well, let's look at the specific examples it gives us right out of the gate. First, it mentions Ganika the prostitute, stating that she was saved simply by meditating in remembrance.
Right.
And then it brings up aTal, who is described explicitly as being known throughout the world as a sinner.
A very specific distinction there.
Yeah, not just a guy who made a few mistakes, but a globally recognized sinner.
Right, famous for it.
Exactly. And the text claims he was redeemed in an instant. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because approaching this with a modern mindset, this almost sounds like a spiritual cheat code.
Oh, I totally see why you'd say that.
Right, like, are we really saying that just remembering a name or contemplating a sanctuary for a brief moment wipes the slate entirely clean regardless of a lifetime of harmful actions? I mean, it feels like it bypasses the entire concept of accountability and justice.
Well, that friction you're feeling is entirely intentional.
Really?
Yeah, the author wants to provoke that exact reaction. When we look at aTal being redeemed in an instant, it challenges our human need for a ledger.
A ledger, right.
We want a spreadsheet of good and bad deeds to balance out. But the text isn't providing a free pass for bad behavior or suggesting that actions don't have consequences in the material world.
Okay, so what is it doing then?
It's introducing an entirely different physics of grace. It's illustrating the sheer scale of this ocean of mercy.
Okay, if we're talking about scale, are we saying the ocean is just so big that a lifetime of sins is basically just a drop of food coloring in the Pacific Ocean?
That is a highly helpful way to visualize it, yeah. If you want to demonstrate that a solvent is incredibly powerful, you don't show it cleaning a slightly smudged window.
Right.
You show it dissolving the deepest, darkest, most impossible stain you can find.
Oh, wow.
By using Ganika, who carried the intense social stigma of her profession, and aTal, whose very reputation was synonymous with sin, the text makes a radical claim about the nature of the divine name.
Which is that it's just so potent that no one is disqualified from redemption.
Exactly. The slate isn't just wiped clean. The very concept of the slate, like the ego-driven identity of being a sinner, is dissolved entirely in that ocean.
So the sanctuary destroys the barrier to entry by basically rendering the past irrelevant.
Yes.
If you're listening to this and thinking, you know, my history is too messy, the safe harbor isn't for me, the text is pointing directly at a world-renowned sinner and stating that if he can access the panic room, the door is wide open for you.
It's a profound equalizer.
But what about the speed of this process? Because the text emphasizes that aTal was saved in an instant. That totally defies our expectation of long, grueling penance.
Well, the speed is actually the crucial mechanism here.
How so?
Well, in an instant suggests that entering the sanctuary isn't a gradual, agonizing process of earning your way back into the universe's good graces.
Okay.
The sanctuary is always present. It's running in the background of reality. The moment you truly sever your attachment to your worldly identity and turn your mind to that divine remembrance, the relief is immediate.
Wow.
It fundamentally changes the relationship between the individual and their own history, because in that sanctuary, the historical self just ceases to be the primary identity.
That perfectly covers the psychological weight of the past then.
Yeah.
The historical sins are washed away. But how does this internal sanctuary handle the present? Like, what about the visceral, physical dangers of the world right now? Because the text doesn't stay comfortably in the realm of erasing past misdeeds.
No, it certainly doesn't.
It transitions into how this sanctuary transforms your current reality by introducing two starkly contrasting figures. We have Dhroo and a majestic elephant named Gach.
And this transition is where the philosophy is put to the ultimate test. Moving from the burden of history to the immediate physical peril of the present moment.
Let's start with Dhroo. The text explains that by meditating in remembrance, Dhroo became immortal and obtained the state of fearlessness.
Right.
That implies a deep, quiet, internal transformation. You know, he conquered the creeping existential dread that plagues all of us, which is the fear of mortality.
Exactly.
But then the imagery takes a wild, violent turn. We get the story of Gaj, the elephant. The text says, as soon as the elephant took to the protective sanctuary of the Lord, the ocean of mercy, he escaped from the crocodile.
The juxtaposition is brilliant because it maps the entire spectrum of human suffering.
Yeah.
On one end, you have the internal, abstract dread of mortality that Dhroo overcomes. On the other end, you have the external, immediate physical agony of a crocodile's jaws.
The elephant escaping the crocodile feels like a high-stakes action movie compared to Dhroo's quiet meditation on a mountaintop.
It really does.
I mean, you can picture the murky water, the sudden ambush, the jaws snapping shut on the elephant's leg. It feels like the crocodile is a perfect analogy for those sudden, terrifying crises in our lives.
The things that just suddenly snap their jaws on us.
Yes.
Out of nowhere.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, look at the specific line that bridges these two experiences. The text says, whoever chants the Lord's name, his bonds are broken.
Okay. Bonds.
Right. A bond can be a psychological chain, like the paralyzing fear of death that gripped Dhroo before his realization. Or a bond can be incredibly literal, like the clamping physical jaws of a crocodile.
Wow.
The text posits that the Lord is the master who removes suffering in this way.
Okay. I have to push back hard on this, though, because this is where the metaphor strains for a modern listener. I can understand how a mental shift, like a deep meditation, breaks the psychological bond of fear.
You change your mind, you change your reality, but a literal crocodile.
Yeah, sounds like a stretch.
Right. Are we supposed to interpret this to mean that if we are facing a physical predator or, say, a violent car crash, that just thinking of a divine name acts as a physical force field? Practically speaking, how does chanting a name pry open a physical set of teeth?
That is the pivotal question of the entire text. It requires us to really understand how this tradition views reality.
Okay.
In these Eastern philosophical frameworks, the crocodile is often interpreted as a manifestation of Maya.
Maya, as an illusion.
Yes, the illusion, the entanglements, and the sheer violence of the material world. When the elephant focuses entirely on the divine name, the mechanism of salvation isn't necessarily a giant magical hand coming down from the sky to pry the crocodile's jaws open.
Then what actually happens to the elephant in those jaws? Because the teeth are still sharp.
Well, remembrance anchors the mind so profoundly that it cannot be dragged into the chaos of the external threat. The elephant's consciousness shifts so completely into the divine frequency that the physical suffering loses its ultimate power over the elephant's true self.
Oh, I see.
The bond is broken because the elephant's true identity is no longer tied to the physical avatar that's being attacked. The body may still be in the jaws, but the core essence of the being has retreated into an impregnable sanctuary.
So the crocodile is still there, the teeth are still sharp, but it can no longer destroy you. The pain might exist, but the suffering, the psychological terror of being destroyed is eradicated because the real you is safe in the panic room.
Exactly. The text is offering a state of consciousness where the external world, no matter how terrifying or violent, cannot penetrate the core of your being.
That is incredible.
That is the ultimate fearlessness that Dhroo achieved in quiet meditation applied in real time under extreme duress by the elephant. It's the realization that the material world's grip is ultimately an illusion compared to the permanence of the divine sanctuary.
You know, that actually makes the action movie aspect of the elephant story much more intense. It isn't about miraculously avoiding danger. It's about maintaining a perfect, unshakable internal sanctuary while the chaos of the world literally has its teeth in you.
Perfectly said.
So we have traversed a really wild cast of characters to get to this point. I mean, we have Ganika, the marginalized prostitute, aTal, the globally recognized sinner, Dhroo, the fearless immortal, and an elephant fighting off a crocodile.
Very diverse group.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive lineup of human and existential struggles. Right. But then the text does something very unexpected. It turns its gaze away from these mythological and historical figures and points directly at the reader.
Yes.
It asks a very sharp, pointed question. It asks, why have you forgotten him?
It operates almost like a spiritual intervention.
Yeah.
The author, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, just stops telling stories about other people's salvation and addresses you directly. It's this moment of deep personal challenge, stripping away all the distance between the ancient text and the present reader.
It feels like the author is saying, look, I've just shown you that this sanctuary can cure the most toxic reputations, conquer the deepest existential fears, and break the most violent physical bonds.
Right.
The door's wide open, the panic room is fully operational, so what are you doing? Why are you choosing to stand outside in the chaos?
Why stay in the jaws of the crocodile, essentially?
Yeah, and to really drive the point home, the text introduces this concept of the Chintamani. It explicitly defines it as the jewel which fulfills all desires.
The Chintamani is a fascinating concept to unpack here. In Eastern mythology, it's often described as a wish-fulfilling jewel, occupying a similar cultural space to, say, the philosopher's stone in Western alchemy.
But wait, introducing a wish-fulfilling jewel here seems incredibly contradictory.
How so?
Well, we just spent this entire time talking about escaping the entanglements of the material world, dissolving our worldly egos, and ignoring the crocodile of Maya. Now, at the very end of the text, we are offering the reader a magical jewel that grants desires. Doesn't that just pull us right back into the materialistic mindset we were trying to escape?
That is a brilliant observation, and it highlights a very subtle theological pivot.
Okay, a pivot.
Yeah. In this specific spiritual context, the Chintamani is not a cosmic slot machine meant to grant you a bigger house or a flawless reputation.
Got it.
When you are drowning in the ocean of the material world, when the crocodile has you by the leg, what is your ultimate desire?
To survive. To be safe. I mean, to be free from the pain.
Exactly. The ultimate desire, the only desire that truly matters when the illusion strips away, is liberation. To find that absolute sanctuary. The Chintamani represents the divine name itself. It's the jewel that fulfills all desires by granting the one final desire that cancels out the need for any others. The desire to merge with the divine and be free from suffering.
So it fulfills your desires by elevating you above the state of constantly wanting.
It cures the disease of wanting itself.
That makes so much more sense. And the text wraps up this concept with a concluding assurance from Nanak, which says, remember the Chintamani, and you too shall be carried across and saved.
You too.
Yeah. That brings us to the ultimate application for you, the listener. How is this ancient, deeply metaphorical hymn speaking directly to whoever is listening right now, whether they are on a morning commute or folding laundry?
The key to internalizing this entire deep dive lies in those exact two words.
I do.
Chew. Nanak's closing promise is the culmination of everything the text has meticulously constructed.
Right.
Every example was chosen to methodically strip away your excuses for not entering the sanctuary.
When you say it strips away excuses, you mean it preemptively counters all the reasons we tell ourselves we can't find peace. Like if someone thinks, I've done too much damage in my past, I don't deserve peace, the text presents aTal and Ganika.
Yes, if you think your internal anxieties and dread are too deeply ingrained to ever overcome, it gives you Dhroo achieving absolute fearlessness.
Wow.
And if you think your immediate external crisis is simply too violent, sudden, or practical for spirituality to be of any use, it offers the elephant and the crocodile.
By presenting these absolute extremes of the human condition, the text draws a massive perimeter.
And whatever you are going through, no matter how unique or isolating it feels, has to fall somewhere within that perimeter.
Precisely. The Chintamani, that jewel of divine remembrance, is just as available to you as it was to the figures in the text. The promise, you too shall be carried across, is absolute.
It's an ironclad guarantee.
Whatever specific ocean you need to traverse, whatever chaos you are drowning in, this internal sanctuary is guaranteed to be the vessel that gets you to the other shore.
It is an incredibly empowering, almost radical democratization of spiritual safety. It takes the power completely away from your external circumstances, your past mistakes, your current crises, the opinions of society, and puts it entirely back into your own consciousness.
Back into your own capacity to remember and focus on that sanctuary. You hold the key to the panic room, and it requires zero external currency to unlock. No wealth, no status, no perfect track record, just the sincere turning of the mind.
That is the true, staggering scale of the ocean of mercy being described. It operates on a frequency that ignores all human hierarchies and ledgers. But crucially, it demands practice.
Right. It's not entirely passive.
No, the text commands the mind to contemplate. It's asking you to actively use the sanctuary to cultivate that internal frequency rather than just admiring the philosophy from the outside.
You can't just know the panic room exists. You have to actually step inside and shut the heavy steel door to experience the safety.
Absolutely.
Well, we have taken a remarkable journey through this brief but intensely layered hymn from Guru Tegh Bahadurji. We started by exploring how the sanctuary of the divine name acts as an ultimate solvent for the past, offering instant, ego-dissolving redemption to those the world had completely written off.
Yeah, erasing the slate completely.
We dissected the mechanics of how it operates in the present tense, granting the profound, quiet fearlessness of Dhroo, while simultaneously offering the psychological armor needed to survive the literal jaws of a crocodile, as experienced by the elephant.
And we arrive at the understanding that this isn't just a collection of historical parables. It is a direct challenge to the listener to utilize the Chintamani, to recognize that the capacity to break the bonds of suffering already exists within their own mind, waiting only to be remembered.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to carry into the rest of your day. We have spent this deep dive analyzing sudden dangers, impossible stains on reputations, and metaphorical beasts. But think about your own life right now.
Yeah, bring back to your own reality.
Think about the specific anxieties that are weighing you down, the feels that feel impossible to shake, or the crises that have suddenly snapped their jaws on your peace of mind. If a single moment of focused remembrance is said to dissolve the identity of a globally recognized sinner or break the psychological grip of a literal crocodile, what crocodiles in your own life might finally lose their teeth if you simply shifted your focus inward and consciously stepped into that ultimate mental and spiritual sanctuary?